This is the North End. This is the North End.
Welcome to the North End Podcast, where three Canadians and an Englishman talk about English soccer. On this week's episode, we're going to discuss Man City are the heavy favorites, the transfer effects on Big's club, and of course, post-pod chat. There's a lot to talk about. The season is getting started soon. We've got Mr. Paul, Conny, and of course, back by popular demand, Mr. Luke Connolly.
From the grave of audio technical problems.
We missed you from last week. It was a difficult one. We know we missed you, but good to have you back. And how are you, brother? Are you okay? I know it's hot as fuck where you are. It is where we are too. But tell us about your life in England at the moment.
I think I'm having a heart attack. I can't breathe. I'm so hot. I don't think anyone has ever been this hot in their entire life. And I mean,
ever
like,
in their life,
in, like Guadalajara, Mexico, or the deserts of LA. Like, this is just ridiculous.
This is coming from a guy that spent like months in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Recently.
I know. But Paul, they have one thing that the UK doesn't have: air conditioning. So you're hot, and then you go inside and you're like
water to jump into that you can cool off in if you wanted to.
That is true. But at least we have toilets that can break down toilet paper. So really, who's winning?
Take what you can get. Take what you can get.
Exactly.
Fun fact, I used to flush that all the time anyways. I know the signs would say no, but I just didn't feel comfortable putting my pooey toilet paper down in the bin. It was just...
It's a strange one, isn't it? I always had that problem as well. Of course, we're off to a great start on the North End Podcast. This is how we roll. No dick talk yet. Don't swear for the first 10 minutes, by the way, if you can avoid it, because not good for the algorithms. Gonna go to you, Conny. How are you, brother? Good to see you again. You finally got your tech working.
I had some audio issues. I'm just happy to be here and that you can hear me and that I can hear you.
Do you mean alive? You're not that old, Conny.
Hey guys, before I get to you, Conny, I want to just point out we've got our first comment here from Mr. Brian Daigle. Yes, how are you doing? It's nice to see you. Have you all a great show with B2 Ireland B2. Fuck you, you bastard. We have a thing about that. Anyway, great to have you.
What did you just say about
Brian? The algorithm, Brian. The algorithm.
Minutes.
Yeah, sorry. I know. It's terrible. I've actuly done that on Tottenham Way a number of times. I'm
shocked.
Shock and all.
If I was on Tottenham Way, I'd be swearing all the time too.
Probably. Good to have you with us, Bri. And hopefully we'll have some new subscribers as well. We have added a couple new subscribers recently. We're new to the YouTube world, but we're looking forward to people joining us and having a good time. Brian says that's why you are B2. Yeah, okay, bro.
I love that picture now, Brian. He kind of looks like Gimli a little bit from Lord of the Rings. I don't think he'll react well to that, but he does.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. I appreciate that. I'm aware of the no swearing, and I'm not aware of it. I said it and then failed miserably. Anyway, back to Conny. How are you, sir?
Man. Okay. So Paul and I played footy on Sunday, and let me tell you, man,
body hurts.
My body was not right until like yesterday, and I could still feel it. And I'll tell you this: full 11 on 11 is not for a 40-year-old man anymore. It's just not. My body was aching.
You gotta ease yourself into those orgies.
I always do that. I always make worse decisions in those situations and end up like killing myself.
I don't think I'm
Paul
doing
will
it
tell
anymore.
you I did last year, or not last year.
Not the 11s, man. Honestly, my body was just a mess. Like maybe like the indoor or the smaller field, but
little co-ed is perfect.
Yeah,
for you,
sure.
buddy. That's where we're at.
You're so dramatic, Conny.
Dude, I'm telling you, man. I was
just being honest.
I was dying, man. My muscles.
Take your Epsom salt bath. Give yourself a weekend. Go back.
I literally did. I had a bath like when I got home. Not kidding.
Yeah.
We got another comment here from Brian Daigle, which I think is appropriate. I can swear in the first 10 minutes, and all I can say is "fuck off, Luke." I hope you're well, mate.
Brian, 4 minutes 16. You could have just bleeped it.
Didn't last. All right, Paulie, up to you, brother. Obviously, good to see you as always. How are you? How's things?
Good, man. Yeah, I don't know. Just waiting for some transfers to happen.
No kidding.
I'm feeding off rumors. And I just need it to happen, and just somebody do something in the market, please. I'm bored. I'm bored. I was watching David Convery forecast all these great transfer rumors on Monday, and
none of them happened.
Nothing.
None of them happened. Even the ones he called as done and done.
I'm a sham.
He's got no idea. Honestly, I think the funniest part of this podcast when I first joined was going back when you guys had said and listening to your early season predictions. And Conny, you're like someone from Hogwarts. You're just all arms and like, let's go.
You remember mine? I was like Nicholas Pepe, signing of the season.
Yeah.
Ends up being the flop of the season.
Arsenal are going to finish third.
Next season, though, I think this season, though, he could
title.
be good. He finished well last season, and he was starting to look like a better player.
That is true.
Anyway,
you'll prove me right one day.
Yeah, probably not. He'll go to some other club that's actually.
Yeah, he did start to play a lot better when the stakes didn't really matter anymore.
Yeah,
didn't he?
That sounds right. That sounds very Arsenal. All right, let's get on with the conversation, fellas. So we're going to talk, as I said in the intro, we're going to talk a little bit about the odds of the obvious odds of Man City winning the league. And Paulie, I'm going to let you sort of have a conversation about this, but I am going to bring up the visual so everybody can have a quick look at it. But Paul, do you want to lead?
Sure. So bookies are starting to make their odds for next year's champion. This is a bit of a combination of all the best odds from the various betting sites. You'll see pretty clearly. Everybody seems to think Man City have basically got the championship.
Bonkers, isn't it, that one?
Just running away with it. Chelsea and Liverpool are next, which I thought was interesting considering Liverpool are like a season away from being champions themselves. Man United are pretty distant, and then after that you can see that it's the best of the rest, like your usual groupings, which is not shocking necessarily.
I love that Leicester are above Arsenal, by the way.
The teams that you're seeing here and the teams that you're seeing in order, I don't find too shocking, but the attributed percentage is like really, like we're really gonna say like Man City are 60% to win this season.
Is there any reason not to, though, Paul?
So, like, okay, let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Man City, super dominant last year on the bounce, having a rebound season. Did so largely without Sergio Aguero. So the loss of Sergio Aguero to Barcelona, probably not a big hit to them. Although he is an older statesman, he's a guy who's won titles with them. He may be a dressing room influence. You never really know with that kind of stuff. They haven't added anybody to the squad yet this season. This is based entirely on them being who they were at the end of last season. Their defense was phenomenal. I think everybody could say that they were a bit surprised by how strong they were. The emergence of Diaz for sure, John Stones coming up, Laporte going down, but like having that inter-squad competition at center back seemed to be a bit of a shock. But like, I know the results were there. I didn't think that they were so dominant every game that I could go into this season and say, well, write it off, boys. Man City and Pep are going to win this title again, especially when other teams are improving. So for me, the conversation isn't necessarily maybe about what Man City are doing right now. They are a known entity. We know what Pep is. We know what Man City are. But maybe it's more about looking at the other teams and giving them more of a chance than what the bookies are giving. Because 60% for Man City is like, why are we bothering playing the season?
Yeah.
Like
Can I chime in here a little bit? I think you make a good point here. I think Man City weren't good until everybody else was really bad either. Like, I'm not saying they weren't good. They did defend really well. They played really good.
No, but Christmas break, you were right. Remember,
that's what I mean. Like they were like 11,
7 or 8.
Yeah, they were even lower than that. They were like really, really low. And they got really good defensively, which is what you need to do to win any tournament or any competition, right? Which and they did that really well. But they ended up sort of relying on, to some extent, the rest of the teams that were in that top 5, top 6 scenario to shit the bed. Spurs were in at the middle to end of November, first in the league. We know what happened there. Failed miserably. Liverpool injury ravaged, right? No, we know what happened there. Chelsea change a manager. We know what happened there, right? Like, so all of those things sort of fell into place. I mean, Chelsea obviously benefited from the change of manager, probably more so than any other team did when it came to the changes that happened at the club or the situation that they were in. But I agree with Paul. I don't think Man City were nearly as good as 60% of what this is implying.
I'm going to piggyback on top of that. So I'll get into the number in a second, but the whole they weren't that good, they defended really well, for me it is kind of bullshit. They found a way to score without Aguero. When we were talking, like Luke said, we were like, where are the goals going to come from? Where are the goals going to come from? They were struggling to score. Then they started to do it by committee. and everyone was popping up. Gundogan had an incredible spell there. Like,
Fair.
Yeah.
like Ferran Torres, like the goals just started flowing, and they were, I'm sorry, in my personal opinion, they were dominant in the second half. Yeah, there wasn't really any challengers, which is frustrating. The 60% bothers me a little because when I look at that 17% with Chelsea, especially with Tuchel, I mean,
I'd
60
say,
is a little,
I'd say Liverpool in that, not Chelsea.
No, I think Tuchel's
see,
got two. They're the current Champions League winners.
We're gonna get into club by club. So keep it if you can. Keep it to Man City without starting.
But maybe not 60. But
So
I mean, I don't think it's that far off. Like, would any of the four of us pick anyone other than City to win the league right now?
I'm going to say United is for me the most crazy of the list there, because if you sign Varane, which I'd say pretty likely you will, and you've already signed Sancho, and I think you might add one or two more, that basically shores up that team. You've got Luke Shaw, who was maybe one of the best performers in the Euro Championships. Just you got Harry Maguire, who has proven himself to be a world-class defender. Varane, you've got that attacking, prowess now up front. Like, where are you?
Okay. Let's since we
Paul's
seem
like,
intent,
we're going to talk about all of these later.
We seem intent
I'm
to
gonna
skip
do it.
ahead every single time. So if nobody has anything else to say about Man
keep it
City,
a check here, buddy. Keep it a check. Jeez,
if
you got
nobody
one
has
job.
anything else to say about Man City, I
no,
think we
I
can
do.
probably
I
start
do.
talking.
I do. I'm a little worried about. Okay, so Aguero's gone. I would say the other part of the spine there has been Fernandinho. Very important player. Very good. Very critical. And I think for a long period of time. So, like, sure, defense is important. We saw what happened the season before with Van Dijk and Liverpool. Fantastic. That's great. I am worried a little bit about the middle of the park there now, especially defensively. And I'm not going to get into the other teams, but like Chelsea's built up a strong team. So I'm worried. Aguero didn't seem to be a major issue near the end of the season. I wonder if an aging Fernandinho and his maybe decline or just
how about
might
Rodri?
be a problem. Yeah, but is he the same type of player though?
I mean, he plays
it-
in that
I think he-
position,
I think
so
he's
he
been-
kind of is. Yeah, I mean,
I think he's been getting better.
Yeah, I would agree, and I don't think that's a massive issue for them. I do think that the goal scoring at the top of the pitch, despite them getting away with a false nine for most of the season, is not down to them doing something special. It's down to men, and I said this sort of in my previous comment. It's much of the rest of the teams in the league not quite being there, but whether it's pandemic related, whether it's just lack of organization, sacking a manager in the middle of a season, all of those things kind of happen to all these other teams, and I think Man City stood further above everybody than they probably should have. Now, I'm not saying that they shouldn't have stood above them. They were certainly the best team in the league, especially defensively, and that's something that I think we've got to give credit to Pep for what he was able to do, which I don't think any of us here and anybody else, any other pundits thought that Man City that Pep in particular would be able to say, I'm going to play differently, because he always had this, we're going to play this way, we're going to play this way, we're going to play this way. And we all thought, when they were 10th or 11th in November, that he couldn't figure it out. And then he did, and then he figured it out. But
right
at the same time, let me just finish. At the same time, every other team shit the bed. It was sort of this like, in my opinion,
I don't like that shit the bed. And sorry, Luke, they just weren't at that caliber. Like, what other team in the league? So Aguero injured, let's be fair, most of the season. You know who else was injured a lot? Kevin De Bruyne. So those two guys are injured and they still cruise to the title. That's messed up. They have a lot of talent at the top end of the pitch. Riyad Mahrez is not just some Jobo player like Raheem Sterling. Like
no, it's not. It's not saying that Raheem Sterling had a bad season. It's more about, of course, the quality is there, and Manchester City have the quality, but every other team that was remotely in any conversation of winning anything went through 100% massive turmoil during a really difficult season. And City kept it together defensively to ensure that they won the league. So they
scored. You got to score to win. They found the goals in the second half.
Yeah.
So let me ask you guys this: Man City obviously playing without a dedicated number 9. You could argue Gabriel Jesus is the closest thing they have to it. Ferran Torres plays up there. Maybe that's how they're going to work this season. They're at 60% right now with the squad they have. Let's play this mental exercise. Harry Kane, Man City this summer, no other changes, no other players brought in, no players out. Where do you put them at for the league? and use your own number. You don't have to change the 60% because you may not have agreed with that in the first place. But like, what's your percentage if Harry Kane goes to Man City this summer? Where do you put them at for the likelihood of winning the title?
98.
If he stays, no. If he stays fit, I think that's another question. It's a player that has fitness injuries and injuries in him. So I think if he stays fit, I would give them the strong percentage. I would put them closer to that 60% then. But that was a question I was going to ask you, Bri, was like, do you, with all the transfer rumors around Harry Kane, obviously your club, do you see City lining up at the start of the season with a false nine still, or will they have a dedicated number 9 in that role? Whether it's Harry Kane or otherwise.
I'll say this to start. I don't think it's Harry Kane. I don't think that there's a reason to think that Harry Kane's going to be sold this summer, despite all the rumors and everything else. I hope
he is.
I don't.
Not for you, but for him.
Yeah, I suppose. He signed a 6-year contract. He's got 3 years left on it. So for him, he made a decision that he has to accept. I see next year certainly a good time for him to leave. Point being, they will bring in another striker for sure. They're not going to spend 150 million on a striker. They're just not. They've only ever spent 80 million total on any player. So they're not going to just break the bank completely for the first time for one player. And a player who's 28 years old, who, like you said, perhaps has injury issues, which I don't agree with that being the case necessarily. I think he missed like 6-7 games last season. He was very, very fit. He's changed his game. It's not a problem for him. If you put Harry Kane in that team though, with De Bruyne fit, and that team is at 90% for me. They win the league easily. Like, it's comfortable.
Yes. And you know what? If they don't,
it's not even a question. Like, he had the most assists and the most goals in a 7th place Spurs side. Yeah. You put him in a
but he doesn't assist in a Man City side. So
of course he does. Why wouldn't he?
Because everyone Paul, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but surely the players around him.
It's a fluid system.
No, because the way he's played with Tottenham is a result of a necessary need. He doesn't need to do that in Man City. They need a number 9. They don't need him dropping off into that playmaker role and getting those assists.
But he did that. He won the Golden Boot 3 times without being the assist guy, so he could still do both.
But I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. He's done it already.
Well, hang on. Let's remember that Pep Guardiola, like when he took over at Barcelona, the first thing he did was say,
nice pronunciation there, Paul. By the way,
I've been there many times. So I know. I'm going to city drop. I love that city. He dropped Zlatan Ibrahimovic right away. Like a phenomenal goal scorer that just didn't work with his system. So you can be a phenomenal goal scorer and not work with Pep, and Pep maybe knows it or maybe doesn't know it. But I think there is a bit of a question mark whether or not Harry Kane works, because they've never had anyone like Harry Kane, a true number 9, play under Pep Guardiola at Man City. And that's the unknown for me. That's a bit of an experiment. I think it most likely does work out if it were to happen, but I do think there is this little bit of, well, this could be the poison move. This could be the thing that actually hurts City, because if they try to force it to work, maybe it takes time to solve. Maybe it takes a little time for him to gel into what is going to be a transition for him if he goes there, because he will be asked to do less.
Different system completely.
Totally different system. Yep. Less involvement, more fox in the box than maybe he's used to playing. It's fair. At Tottenham, where he's had to do more, you could almost argue it's a bit of a waste of his abilities if he went to City.
But as I was saying, Paul, and I know that this is, it's previously, but it is something to take into account. He was the best number 9, maybe other than Lewandowski, before last season. Last season was the first time he's come out and being the assist guy too. That he just upped his game. So totally. But before that, he still had 3 golden boots as a 9, as a fox in the box, as a guy who just gets in, scores, gets hammers in the net. So it doesn't mean he can't do it. He's just upped his game last season because he had to, because we were so shit. So
I think it's definitely one of those ones where, does he improve the starting 11 to Man City? Yeah.
Yes.
100%. Every team in the Premier League improves the starting 11. System or not. Or not.
And he's a clever footballer. He changes what he does based on the situation he's in. He's a smart
adaptable
footballer. Very adaptable.
Connie, I want to ask, as Connie is your third party, with everything that's just been said, 2 scenarios. You have a Harry Kane agreed deal for 125 million, or you pick up a Danny Ings for 30 million at Man City in that role, who is a dedicated number 9 goal scorer. Do you think Harry Kane? Do you think Kane is worth the extra 100 million.
Do you know who's
Yeah.
more injured more than Harry Kane?
Danny Ings. Yeah.
No,
He's
no,
generational.
that's actually not true. That's actually not true.
100% true.
No, he's not.
More than
the last
Harry
year or
Kane,
two-
it is.
No, if you actually look over the last 5 years, not at all. The last 2 years, he's had bad injuries. Previous to that, next to
Harry
nothing.
Kane
He-
missed
he-
6
with
games
Liverpool.
last season.
Let's
Luke.
not get hung up on the
From
injury
injury.
thing. Here's the answer.
Luke,
If you
that's
have-
not true, man.
If you have the money, and
I
you can
know.
make
I
the
just
deal,
like arguing with Brian.
If you have the money,
Fuck you, Luke. Fuck you.
if you have the money
I
and they're
can
willing to
say
sell,
fuck you now, right?
you buy Harry
That's-
Kane for 120 million. You do. You just
why?
do. Just because he can do it all, and he will make any team better. The thing is, though,
But
I
but
want
does
to
he-
throw this
but
back.
Does
to
he
you
make
guys.
him 100 million extra better on
Yeah.
what they need right now?
Yeah, they
That's
win
the question. I'm
They
asking.
don't. They don't.
They
just
won
win
the league without a 9.
They don't just
so
win the
They don't
league.
need him.
They then win the Champions League, and then they would do. Like they might even
Perhaps.
do the
Do you
quadruple.
not think? Maybe I'm overrating Ings then, but do you not think with a dedicated number 9 like Danny Ings with the supply of De Bruyne, Mahrez, all those kind of quality, he just flourishes and sits at 20.
What were Ings' numbers last year? How many goals did
Oh,
Ings
he did
Danny
well.
score?
Sorry, I'm
He did
gonna. Yes,
No, I'm asking
absolutely.
a question. I'm not saying
Danny
I
Ings.
know. I'm just asking
Danny
a
Ings 100% improves Man City.
He got
100%.
goals, but okay,
Yeah,
guys,
I think what's
It's
happening
sick.
here is that you've given us an either or. Harry Kane, the best striker in England, one of the
Sure.
top 2 in the planet, and then Danny Ings, a very, very good addition to any team as a option off
Yeah.
the bench or starting.
Yeah.
Like that's a false kind of comparison. Danny Ings, if they went to Man City, that's
For
a
sure.
great improvement for Man City.
But-
But
Hold
revolution of Man City, if it would happen if they had Harry
I think
Kane.
the
Hold on.
comparison.
Champions
though,
League would happen.
I think
with
the
Harry
comparison though is whether or not, like, if you're Man City,
It's 100 million.
the decision you
That's-
make, right? Like, do
Yeah,
we
it's a
spend
lot.
the money on Kane or do we
That's what I'm
spend
asking.
less money on Ings and still get a similar
But they need
result?
him.
I think
Based
it's
based on how they play, right?
It's a Harry Kane if you want the Champions League decision, and
Yeah,
that's just
yeah.
how I see
I
it.
think
Like
that's
it's
it,
not
Paul. I think
a league thing. It's a.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
there's a
over and
reason why
above, yeah.
we're talking about 60% for Man City with bookie odds. Like they're still so good compared to the English. Wow, I don't know if that's entirely true. We'll get into that. So the next team that was favored, there's 2 teams with equal amount value, 17%. But I want to talk about Chelsea a little bit because I think some people might be wondering why Chelsea are second favorites in the league to win this year when they finished 4th last year. Because I think that's a right question to ask. Like if you look at the standings, they barely finished 4th. Liverpool got in above them in 3rd, and that was a bit of a surprise to everybody. So I think what we need to talk about specifically is not how Chelsea played last season, but you really have to start talking about what happened when Tuchel came in and he started steering the ship. So I'll ask Brian to throw this up on screen. This is a chart that actually shows the schedule and results of the Premier League from the first game that he was in charge of Chelsea and where they would have finished the rest of the season. And you'll see that Chelsea finished 2nd with him in charge. Like dramatically different results. I think if you isolated the performance of Chelsea when Frank was in charge, they were actually at 7th in the league. So not only did he steer the ship the right way, he did so very quickly, very successfully. And this will be his first full season at Chelsea starting the season. So I don't mind Chelsea being in amongst the favorites. I just, for me, I think 17% is a bit of you're giving it more to Man City when you do that. I like a number for Chelsea and maybe even Liverpool as being closer to like 25%, 30% even.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they're the Champions League type. Like they're the best in Europe.
They beat City.
Jorginho's got an actual legitimate shout at Ballon d'Or.
Yeah,
Like,
just won the fucking
Yeah.
Euros with Italy.
like,
So
which is crazy. They're very good defensively, and all this without seemingly a dedicated goal scoring striker, somebody who could put the ball in the net. They've lost Giroud. That's the only real change. They had no addition so far this summer. But if you can see them bringing in somebody who can regularly score where Timo Werner doesn't score or even hits the net, I would also like to say I like their chances to go increase to like they're close to 30-40% all of a sudden.
Can I throw
But
something
who
out
do they
there?
bring in?
Can I throw something out there? What if Werner actually finds his feet this season and starts banging in the goals? We know he's got the ability to cut
He's
in.
not. No, he's not gonna.
He's done it before.
17% for Chelsea too.
He's
Yeah,
done it before, man. What? And we all know second season syndrome in the Premier League. What if
No,
he
I
starts to
think it's-
figure it out? No,
Well, what are you
chance.
asking? Are you asking if it's likely to happen or what the effect is on Chelsea? Because those are two separate questions.
Both.
one, it's not going to happen. Two, if it does happen, that's definitely what they're missing. They're missing somebody who can regularly score,
especially with the chances they create. Right? They
created, but that's why they're so hotly attached to Holland. It's like they're going to be attached to every phenomenal goal scorer of a certain age.
Anybody who's going to put goals in the net.
Which is basically just Holland, but they're not going to get him, and then they're probably going to have another pass at him next summer, which means they're probably going to go into this season with what they got at striker. Maybe a Danny Ings or somebody who's like a little bit more of a stopgap, but you know what? I just can't see it being a striker season for Werner.
I would say if like the concept of if Werner improves to the striker they should be is the equivalent of saying, well, if my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a bicycle. It's so unrealistic. I think he's going to get bullied, man. I don't.
Harsh on him, man. I know he had a bad season, but we know he can score. We saw what he did in Germany.
He's capable.
He's scared. Yeah. He's scared. No, I think he's scared, man. I think unless they put fucking 10 pounds of muscle on him, I think he's in big trouble, because I think he was the first for him to come out against the likes of fucking Brighton and be like, oh yeah, it's the centre backs. They're so big. It's like, all right, pal. Like you don't see Jamie Vardy.
How old is he, Luke? How old is
24? I guess
he's a young man. Yeah, he's a young man.
Yeah, I just think if you play in another league and you put yourself in a position where, holy shit, and we know this about the English league, like it's physical. There's bigger players. The center has to play you. It's going to be harder to play against in those situations. That's a normal reaction. I actually thought he responded to it well when he came to his demeanor. I don't think he responded to it well when it came to his effectiveness as a striker and finishing. Well, finishing, he put himself in position over and over again. Like he was always creating or always in a position to score.
Well, he didn't have the only thing you needed,
dude.
And he showed it in the Euros.
So the physicality and the way English Premier League is played isn't his problem. It's his confidence in front of goal and putting it in the net. And I'm with Conny a bit on this, and I'm kind of like sort of in between with both of you. I think he will come good, and we see this a lot in the Premier League. We see players who have a struggle with the first season get understand a little bit where they are, maybe work out a little bit more, get more physically strong, and then have a much better season. We also have Moratas of the world who did the opposite and was crap as well. Also a Chelsea player, but I do think that we'll know in the first 2 or 3 months what we're going to get out of that player for Chelsea.
If I could just remind everybody, he joined this league under Frank, and Frank had him playing center forward, left side, right side. He
all over the map, right?
Week to week. So he's adjusting to a new team, a new league, new defenders. And he was still getting opportunities. Half the job is making yourself opportunities, and he was doing that consistently. His finishing was shit. So he might be a player that just needs a purple patch. He might just be a player that just never really gets consistent with his finishing. But the other thing with Chelsea, as we talk about who can maybe score goals that they already have, Kai Havertz started playing as a false nine towards the end of last season, and he started getting pretty good at goal scoring. So if he can kind of maybe find that form or become that player they thought or they think he might become because they invested so much in him, that might be something that raises those odds a little bit further. Because I think we can all collectively agree the defense at Chelsea is going to be the thing that gets them in contention for any kind of title. But the unknown is, can they get the goal scoring either from the squad they have? And there's a couple of players that legitimately could have, sophomore seasons where they could do some damage, or they're going to bring in somebody from the outside to score those goals. But it's, I don't know. I see 17% right now. It's a little unfair. I'd rather see something closer to 20, 25%.
It'll probably change though, Paul. Don't you think? Over the course of the transfer window, we've got Stu Mick in the comments. Welcome Stu to the channel. Good to have you here. We're new to YouTube, and it's nice to see some people watching. Is Anglophile bias a problem? Question for the panel. Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Stu, if you want to suggest why that's the case. If there's specific.
He said it there, mate. It says Maguire shipped 51 goals at 80, less than 80 million. Rice battled relegation for 2 seasons and then towered at 80 to 100. Ben White average in the air 50 million. And I get his point. I think it's a good point.
For sure.
Someone once said something about Maguire and it never left my head, and I think it was brilliant. So, prior to the horrendous injury, what was the pre-COVID? What was the realistic value for Van Dijk when they were playing at that top level when Liverpool just trounced everything? would if someone had said 150 million, would you have been like, it's a lot of money, but I can see it being paid for Van Dijk?
At least 120. Yeah, 150 wouldn't be
Yeah,
that
the
far off.
numbers are certainly different in that conversation.
If you take 150 and you roughly half it, you're at 75 million. So if I was to say to you, well, do you think Maguire's at least half as good as Van Dijk? There's his valuation. It was an interesting one. Someone, a United fan, put out to me, and I was like, actually, I get it. It was still crazy, but I think Van Dijk has proven himself actually now.
I generally don't like anybody using the Maguire situation as a gauge of how much English players should like. That's also a situation where Moneybags Manchester United, desperate for a center back, approached a club that didn't need to sell the center back, so they were over a negotiation barrel. And they just paid what they had to pay, and I'm sure they don't regret it because he's actually been like pretty critical for turning the ship around. But when you talk about like this preference or this overhype on maybe English players or even the price tags of these guys, well, I mean, there's a homegrown quota for these clubs. They need to have the best possible English players on their squads because they need to have a certain number of English players on their squad. So when you're going to England and that's your market, then you have to put increased price tags on these guys. Yeah, you could get a left back better than Luke Shaw potentially in Brazil, but Luke Shaw is the best English left back. So that takes one of your quotas and it's a really good player to have in your squad. So that just naturally makes those players more expensive. And then there's the whole thing about the hype and the press, and they're in the limelight and they're brand names and people know who they are. So there's a lot of different elements you have to break out with that. But I mean, there's tons of players that are way more expensive than they should be just because they're English. Yeah. But there's elements to why that's the case.
Yeah, for sure. Stu, I just want to thank Stu for the question in the comments. Appreciate that.
Great question.
Conny, did you want to add something?
Well, Sancho 75. I do think there is an English tax, but Paul just nailed it on the head. Like there's a homegrown quota. That's important. And if you can get one of the better English players, you're probably going to have to pay a little bit more for them. And that's just the way it seemed to work.
It's the nature of the situation, isn't it? Yeah.
It's tragic. So let's talk about Liverpool. Yeah. Liverpool, I think, funny, bookies are saying Liverpool, the 1 year out defending champions who are, let's face it, I mean, if you started last season, they would have been favored again, I think, to beat Man City, or it would have been much closer than what the Vegas odds are giving now. Last year was a bit of a blip. I'm going to call it a blip because the decimation of an entire squad is something that you just can't see anybody get through. And they still finished third. Unbelievably, they still finished third. When they won the title, they did so in good fashion. They got a little bit stronger in the window last season. Like Thiago Alcantara, for example, hasn't really played amongst a healthy squad of Liverpool players.
Thiago Alcantara. Sorry.
That's exactly what I said.
It continues.
That's exactly what I said. And they'll have bigger than anything else a healthy Van Dijk.
Yeah.
So I don't, and then Konate gets signed, who is a giant beast of a man.
Yeah.
This is probably going to be the most dominant physical center back pairing in the Premier League this season. Certainly, at least one of them is amazing at moving the ball, so they might be the best center back pairing in the Premier League. They've got two of the best wing backs in the Premier League. I don't know that I agree with the evaluation that they should be at the same level as Chelsea, and I don't think I agree with the evaluation that they should be so far behind the Premier League title race from Man City. If they can come into the season healthy, I think, and Jota was signed last season. They're better now, I think, than they were when they won the title.
Why don't you think they should be in the same category as Chelsea?
Because they've won the title before. They've beaten.
Oh, you think Liverpool should be above them?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree, and I actually think, I think Konate could be. I wouldn't be shocked if he was like the signing of the season. He's massively underrated, in my opinion. I think. A very underrated.
He'll now be the least performing player.
100%. Mark it down. Sure. I think also another player on that team that doesn't get the credit for the performances that he puts in is Fabinho. He's been quietly excellent for Liverpool. The question for me is going to be that front three. Do they still have it? Is there going to be a decline there? If they can still get it done at the top, I think that 17% is a slap in the face. If they can still get it done and if that team stays healthy, I'm a little bit concerned if I'm Pep Guardiola.
No, I agree with that. And I think where I go from is if you wonder what the weaknesses of a squad are, you can sometimes tell based on the targets that they've gone after. And I fully believe Klopp had conversations with Timo Werner and was trying to stitch him up to go to Liverpool. He would be a great fit for Klopp. He'd be a great fit for Liverpool. They didn't work out for whatever reasons, but that tells me that even Klopp wants to reinforce the position of forward. Not necessarily a striker, but maybe somebody who can play striker but play on the left as well. Timo's kind of got that ability. You can move him around the front three. So he may be having some doubts himself about that front three, or he was having doubts himself last season. It's a weird one. Mane felt like he's maybe coming to a point where he's not the guy he was when they won the title. He seemed like the guy who scored all the goals when they really needed it. Mo Salah had a little bit more of a quiet season, less dominant than he had been before. Firmino, he does so many things well off the ball. He brings them into play so well, but I still can't get my head around a guy who only scores like a handful of goals playing as your striker when you've got like high octane offense. So yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I think the addition of Jota is really interesting. We haven't really seen what a healthy Liverpool with him looks like. Although I think he's probably their new version of what Shaqiri did when they won the title. So maybe we kind of have seen it because they represent the same kind of goal scoring and contribution. But yeah, I'm excited. And as a Man City fan, or Man United fan, sorry, not Man City, very unhappy about it as well. Because I have to say out loud publicly, I think Liverpool will have a better chance at winning the title than what the odds are giving them right now. By like a healthy margin.
Right.
Massive difference.
Let me ask a question to you three. Is the biggest thing, if you're a Liverpool fan going into this season, hoping that Van Dijk has recovered and can stay healthy? Like, is that your number one concern?
Yeah, I think you have to think. I think you have to consider it for sure because it was a pretty massive injury. It wasn't like something you come back from for 6 weeks. He was gone the rest of the season.
Yeah.
And so.
But he's had the whole season to recover from. Like I
know.
I've done my ACL.
But you know as well as I do, Luke, when you have a specific type of injury, like it does change slightly, maybe the way you react to a difficult scenario, right? Like if I've got bad ankles, for instance. So if I have a scenario where I've got to go in and I've got to step a certain way, I'm going to be a little bit reluctant. That means my timing's off. That means I'm not going to be able to do the things I'm used to doing. We don't know that. And of course it's speculative. And that's the point of doing these types of fucking podcasts is to be speculative. But we won't know until probably a month in, I think, a month and a half or in to really see where he's at physically, and if he still is that Van Dijk that he was when just before he got that injury, because he was levels above pretty much anybody in that position in the world.
If you drop the best defender on the planet by everyone,
if you just drop a touch in that scenario at the highest level, that changes the way the rest of the team plays, especially if you got a player beside you who relies on that level being above so that you go a level above. If you no longer feel confident in that, and then they lose that sort of confidence in that defense, then that changes the way the team plays completely. It happens with keepers as well, right? So I think
that's for me a big point, Brian. That's like for me, Brian, that's a big point because as soon as the center back pairing gets locked in and presumably performs well, that's when you get Trent Alexander-Arnold flying up the wing, which he wasn't really doing much of last season for various reasons. And Robertson on the other side as well, who again wasn't doing it as much for various reasons. But as soon as those guys have permission and feel the safety of the back two behind them and the center defensive midfield player covering them, they're bombing, and that's what got them the title. With those two guys bombing forward,
absolutely,
and the overlap with like Salah and Mane, like everything, they just had this really this fragile system that broke when like half the squad was out injured last season. Which any system would break if half the players go. But
I think half of the squad could be in line for leaving before the season. I just happened to have a look, and do you know who I totally forgot? Karius is still a Liverpool player, the goalkeeper.
Come on,
he's still
on loan.
Yeah, he's back at the team and
that's
training.
Crazy.
Ben Davies, we forgot about him. Signed. Obviously doesn't look like he's getting much of an opportunity. Just go through it. Shaqiri, you've got to imagine Shaqiri is not going to be used and probably want Harry Wilson. Can you see him playing?
So there's two stories about Liverpool right now. One is that Klopp has 10 first name players, 10 that he says are not in his plans, and he wants them to go. And then two, it's going to be, okay, well, who are we bringing in?
It's time
right?
for a rebuild for them to some extent, right? Like
It is.
No, I don't
in a
know.
good way. No, in a good
Refresh.
way. This is what refresh. This is what Spurs failed miserably at just before Pochettino got the sack. Just as an example, you have to recognize when to overturn your squad, to overturn your squad. This player, take them out, bring in new ones, refresh. Klopp is seeing that, and I think if he's seeing that and he's given the opportunity to do it based on what the ownership and the people in charge of the money and whether he's going to be allowed to, if they let him do it, they'll be fine.
And then the other story is
they'll be fucked. And we know we can see from not just Spurs but other clubs, when that happens, the clubs inevitably suffer.
Where do you guys stand on Jordan Henderson? Because I think the other thing that's going on with them right now, they're trying to work out a new contract. Does he still does he still fit into the starting 11 for you guys? Is he still a critical player for Liverpool in your opinion?
I think so.
I think so too.
Yeah. I think his transition ability, especially in the way Klopp plays, suits them. He gets the ball, he shifts, he turns, boom, forward pass. Every time,
he became the leader.
Forward pass, and not even just the quality of this football, but like you said, Luke, what he does for the rest of the players on the pitch from a confidence perspective and a leadership perspective is massive.
So let me ask you all a question: what if you're a Liverpool fan and the transfer market is open, we're in it? What do they need the most right now to add to the squad?
I'm going to go quickly before anybody else, but what Paul said, and I completely agree, a proper number 9. Like, I love Firmino and what he had done for them previously. I don't think that they can do that anymore. I think that teams have figured it out a little bit, and I think they need to get somebody in there who is like a Luis Suarez, who just gets in there and scores goals.
I disagree, and I'll tell you why. You know who plays that role when Firmino's not playing, and it works excellent with Mane and Salah. And Jota was incredible. In that false 9 position with them. I don't think
he played more off the left, though, not as a false 9. He played more off the left.
No, he didn't. He played right in the middle between those two, and he scored goals and he set up goals.
Who do you start?
He wasn't playing in the left.
That's the other one. You've got the 4 of them. You've got Firmino, Mane, Salah, and a fit and informed Jota. Like, how do they set up? Like, Origi has to go. Minamino should be canned out the door. I think they need to load off 6 or 7 players, and I think they need to sign 2 or 3 real quality. I think they need another good strong midfielder, because outside of Henderson and Fabinho's getting old. Thiago is good, but he wasn't as good as we thought he was going to be, I'd say. Milner's getting old. Keita, I don't think Keita's really done what we thought he might.
What anybody expected. So I got to interrupt you real quick here, because we've got a person who wants to get in on the conversation. And JP, I see you in the background, but you're not coming on unless you put a fucking shirt on, mate. I don't care how hot it is. You're not coming on.
Mate, he's a fucking hillbilly, this kid. I swear to God, like,
I'm just
trailer trash.
He's in California. You can sit you can make your hand gestures in the background there, but you're not coming on until you put a fucking shirt on. This is a family show. It's a family.
No shirt, no shoot, no service.
Yeah, you fucking bellend. It's a family show.
Yes, bombs are flying around.
He's been giving us the finger for the last 20 minutes, and then he's like gonna go put a shirt on.
This is a chat roulette. You just can't show up with your shirt off and your dick out. Okay, this is a high class operation.
Classy operation here at the North End Podcast. Even though I said fucking dick and fuck in the first 3 minutes.
We swore 3 times in 10 minutes. You did twice, and Conny dropped one before the 10-minute mark. It's unbelievable how bad we did.
We're new to this, dude. We're new. We're used to so I was like, I thought we were dicks and fucking in the first 10 minutes of everything. So, all right, let's move on, guys. We got Sean who's been added to the. Who's Sean? Who's given away the link? Which one of you back?
Me.
Sharing the
it's Luke. Let's go. Let's get them all in.
I don't mind it, but we're gonna save it because this is for the after show. We're gonna get through all of our talking points, and then these cunts can come in and we'll have a conversation. Where are we at, Paul?
Well, I think what just happened is we called our fans cunts, so I love it.
You just dropped the C-bomb. This is going on YouTube, mate. We're going to be absolutely.
You can say that. It's the first 10 minutes. It's the first 10 minutes.
First 10 minutes. I've already done all the
North American audience.
There's algorithms there. It's fine.
So if I'm hearing correctly, we're not going to stop to let anybody in right now. We're going to move on to the next team. I think what we can all say is that we all feel like Liverpool probably are better than the Vegas odds of 17% to win.
Yes.
And I feel like I've talked myself into maybe throwing some money down on them, by the way. Man United are second place finishers last season. I think everybody can agree that second place is a little bit of a, well, we know Chelsea, once they got the new manager, we're better than Man United. We know Liverpool were decimated by injuries, so they're probably still better than Man United. So not being considered second in league favorites going into this season, I'm fine with. I don't mind that we're at like, I think 12 or 13% for the league. That probably is about right with a squad that's got so many obvious holes. So it's not really about defense of that position or those Vegas odds, but it's more that those odds are not taking into account the possibilities that we're about to discuss. Man United don't have a right winger. Jadon Sancho is going to be announced in the next couple of days. That's a done deal. It's the worst kept secret on the planet. I think that fixes a significant hole in the squad. I think that marginally improves some things, but not as much as the possibility of Rafael Varane joining from Real Madrid, which I think in video game terms levels Man United way the hell up. It's very similar to what happened to Liverpool finishing fifth, getting Van Dijk, and all of a sudden being dominant and having a chance of winning the title. I think those two players alone, and there's rumors for more, give Man United a boost somewhere in the vein of 20 to 25% going into the season. Not a huge boost, but that's 1 in 4. And I don't mind that for where my club is right now. I still think Man City are well ahead. I think Liverpool are well ahead. I think 1 in 4 odds. I like that. I don't mind going into the season that way. But am I crazy here? Do we feel like that those two players are enough to give United a 25% chance of winning the league this season?
Let me throw something at you. So you've got those two players. Let's say we know Sancho is done. Let's say Varane comes in and then, and work with me here, and then Paul Pogba leaves and goes to PSG. Are you still liking your 25%, or is it dependent if they replace Paul Pogba with somebody else?
I don't think you can lose Paul Pogba to have a better chance at winning the league. I mean, inconsistent, frustrating, all those things, but one of the most creative influences we have in the team, help set up goals, help dictate. It makes us worse. You sell Pogba to get somebody else in who is maybe not a Pogba-esque player, like a Sal Niguez, who's maybe more of a dynamic midfield player, a more traditional midfield player, and maybe we even surpass the 25%. It depends who the replacement is. But if it's just losing Pogba but getting Varane and Sancho, no, we're not making ourselves better than 25%.
So what about this?
I don't honestly, Connie, in that scenario, I don't think it changes a hell of a lot if you lose Pogba.
I think it could kind of work. So what about this scenario? Sancho, Varane, Pogba goes, and then you sign Camavinga.
I think a lot of people are really excited about Camavinga. I get why, but he's a kid.
Yeah.
And you don't want to the idea that we're going to win a title because we got a kid. It's almost like, yeah, maybe, but that can't be the expectation. You can't go into it thinking an 18-year-old is going to be the missing piece to get your title away from Man City. That just feels like, no. Sal Niguez, yes, professional, been around the block. He's a proven winner. I like him a lot. I can see him improving. If Pogba goes and he comes in, I think we're better for it. Different kinds of midfield players, but I see him being better for us and our chances of winning the league. But I just don't see Pogba going as being an automatic improvement to the team. A lot of Man United fans are like,
the other way around, guys.
We will be better if he goes. Like a lot of people are just like, get him out, we're done.
You could see it from both sides though. Like if Pogba left, I wouldn't be torn up about it in a sense that Pogba, when he's on the field, wants the ball a lot. And Pogba's a very talented player. We can all agree on that. But I actually wanted the ball to be going to Bruno Fernandes when we're moving up the field all of the time. So if Pogba did leave and we shifted our system a little bit, maybe got a DM and freed up, I know a lot of people use that term, but essentially made Bruno Fernandes the focal point of the spear of our offense, I wouldn't be upset about that. Pogba's a fantastic player, but for the wages that he's asking for and the amount that he's injured and the bullshit you deal with his agent, I kind of be like, well, thanks, but no thanks. And that's just my take. I don't want to be disrespectful to him because he's an incredibly talented player, but it wouldn't be the end of the world for me. I think I'd be fine with it.
I think collectively we can all agree Man United are pretty far off the pace
Yeah.
Because even though we're talking about the hypothetical arrivals of 2 players at least that are not confirmed to have joined yet, although Sancho, again, that's going to happen. And then we're talking about other players in addition. So for me, I think realistically, Man United are going into a development year. They're still very young. If they can keep the squad young and hungry and wait one more season to gel into it and get really good odds going into next season, I think that's more realistic. But for me, it feels like we're looking at as Man City and Liverpool fighting it out this season, and maybe Chelsea being
Chelsea
the
on the
dark horse.
cusp. Chelsea on the cusp.
Luke, do you agree with that? I mean, Paul and I are United fans, so we're a little.
Luke is
too
having a
entrenched.
conversation with somebody in the back end.
Oh, he's in mute. So well then
He's muted as
you're
well.
on mute,
Nobody
bro.
knows what he's saying, so that's always
No, I get it. I gotta be honest. I was getting bored of that conversation.
yeah.
Fucking
I was feeling
United,
the same way.
Liverpool.
I was feeling the same
Yeah,
way.
let's
Luke.
move on.
But
Let's move on.
no, it's fair. Look,
Yeah.
there are 2 people here who support the club, but it's also Manchester United, despite us not wanting it to be true, are on the up. I would agree that if they bring in the right players, Rafael Varane, for instance, and I do think keeping Pogba is good for you, not getting rid of him. And they improve their defense and they improve that midfield, and then they get I guess you guys have a Cavani, a striker in Cavani, but I do think you need somebody there who's younger, who's more, who's going to be more consistent with.
No, I don't. I think if they get a good balling midfielder to replace Pogba if he goes, I think you get in Varane and then you give Henderson the chance to start. I think. I think
Henderson?
United have a cracking team. Yeah,
But I'm not talking about cracking team. We're talking about odds about whether they're going to have a chance.
Yeah, no,
to win the league.
I think they go up.
They're not going to be better than Chelsea. They're not going to be better than Liverpool. They're not going to be Manchester City on those.
Well, no, hang on. We literally said for 10 minutes on this pod that the thing that really did it for City was them shoring up the defense. That was the thing that was costing them. So if they get Varane, they've Varane and Maguire, they've Luke Shaw, who's arguably the best left back in the world right now, and then you have
City going forward.
No, but then you have Warren Bissaka, who can just seem to tackle anyone, anywhere, at any time.
Forward, compared to United going forward,
he doesn't have to because there's Sancho on the right now.
Yeah, and Luke Shaw on the left. I disagree. I think United, if they get Varane in, are incredibly strong at the back. Build from the back. You've got playmakers like Fernandes. We know how good Sancho is. 137 goal assist kind of involvement in 100
last season too. I don't know if I'm convinced, but
we'll see.
Anything else to add to United before we move on, Paul?
No, I'm actually I like hearing Luke's impartial optimism.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily love the fact that we're all saying, oh yeah, the guys are talking about their team. They're one of the biggest clubs in the world. We're going to spend some time talking about it. I can talk about Aston Villa for 20 minutes easily because I'm a fan of all the Premier League, and I am happy to talk about Aston Villa.
Non-biased. JP,
but this whole I was falling asleep business. It's let's keep it professional, Luke. Let's bring it to a professional place, okay?
This is
we just
right?
walked 3 times.
This isn't the shopping channel, okay?
4 times.
This isn't the fucking shopping channel.
Somebody
no
dropped
professionalism
Brian was dropping see you next Thursdays.
It's YouTube. You can say that.
There's no professionalism. No, it was just getting a bit long, Paul. It was getting a bit long.
Nobody's watching anyway other than JP. He was actually in the background waiting for us to bring him on, and I'm just going to...
I'll bring him in. Let's have a quick chat about Villa and bring him in for 5 minutes. He'll love that. Villa just absolutely bossed in their
5-minute chat about Villa with you two.
So you specifically invited a guy
on your shitbag team.
You specifically invited a guy on to then talk about your club, and you think that we're not going to notice that you invited him?
No.
It's he's here, guys.
No.
He didn't just show up to a party.
Shared the link. I'm the only one that actually put us out to an audience. You fucking losers sat there. Connie sat there smoking. Fuck, I shared it.
Were we supposed to? Was that the plan? Was that the plan?
It was never the plan.
Well, let's just move on to that. If he's going to talk shit like that, he doesn't deserve to be here because I'm in control, Luke. So you don't get to be a prick about it.
Maybe we should remind Luke that
let's bring in JP.
We're doing a pod. JP California. JP California.
You guys literally a whole season to realize that I should have taken Luke's spot. That's how long it took.
I think that's where we're at now. It's 3 Canadians and an American.
Yeah.
I think right off the bat, Paul Pogba
Luke is
gets you guys
dying
10
in the
points
background right now. We cannot handle this.
Sorry. JP California is talking about Paul Pogba, but I don't know what he's saying. You repeat yourself.
JP.
10 points a season. You get rid of him, you lose 10 points a season. You're not in the race for top 3.
You don't know that, JP. Like, he gets injured a lot, and sometimes, like, here's the problem with him. World-class players are world-class players because they play well all the time. He sometimes has games where he's horrific, and then the next game he'll be incredible. I don't understand the hype around him. I really don't.
Here's the thing for me is not that Paul Pogba, he doesn't necessarily scores the winning goals, and he doesn't protect your defense particularly well as a center defensive mid, but he's the guy who sprays the ball over 5 guys to an outside guy who's overlapping, right? Luke Shaw, who can then put in the cross for the assist. He's the guy who keeps ball moving.
JP, Luke
He's
is
huge.
left. Luke has left us, by the way, and I'm feeling pretty bad now because
You should feel pretty bad.
You didn't take the
dropped
joke
him
very well.
fat.
It was a joke.
You dropped him hard.
Okay,
He's
let me ask
like,
you-
I'm out.
Let me ask you a question, JP, because it's a good point.
Excuse me
So-
for a sec, guys.
Oh, then I'll talk any team, by the way.
Yeah, no, I love that. So with Pogba, we all see how he plays for France, right? But he's a disciplined player with France, and I don't know if that's Deschamps or his teammates. He doesn't do that for United. You just said it. He doesn't protect. But
he didn't do it for Juventus either.
Yeah, but look who he had. He had Marquisio and Pirlo. If he played as a deeper lying midfield
Pirlo
for
was
United,
old, man. Pirlo was really
he's also
old.
Serie A. He was a young man in Serie A, right? Like, so if
I think let's talk about this for a second. I think you're right. I can't be defensible of it. Like, Man United lose one of their best creative forces in the midfield. They have nobody to replace creativity in the midfield. 10 points is probably right. I think, Connie, you're talking about whether or not he's good for us long term, but like without a replacement, we would suffer, and 10 points is probably the suffer. So I don't really.
But
we don't need to. We don't have to unpack the Paul Pogba of all, because for once he's not actually rumored that heavily to be leaving Man United. So why enter that water?
Instead,
that's what I welcome
That heavily.
to the show. By
That
the way.
heavily.
that number 8 you guys were talking about,
Luke, you can fuck
Kamavinga,
up.
I don't think he's the winner for you. I mean, I know a lot of people are, and I can see why, but I also believe an 18, 19-year-old, he'll have 6 good games, and he's going to have 6 bad games, especially in the Premier League, right? I think you lose Paul Pogba, you lose 10 points. You're adding Sancho, you're anywhere between, I think the statistics were like 3 to 7 or 8 points, right? That's what he's going to bring you. You bring in Varane, however you say his name, that's going to win you 7 or 8 points. I think the guy they really need is Konrad Leimer from RB Leipzig, who's energetic, battling. He's like 6'1". He's not super big, but he is just a hound dog at Leipzig. And I think you put him in the middle with Pogba and Bruno Fernandes. You have Sancho on one side. You get Rashford or Martial on the other. And you got Cavani up top. And if the coach can actually put him out in a style and a way to win games, then I think you can make up 15 points in a season and you have a title race.
It's a big if. It's a big if.
Well,
That is a big if.
I think the guy you're mentioning is a little bit he's a little too loose with the ball for me. Like I think he would struggle in the Premier League. It's like it's one of the problems with taking anybody who's like from Bundesliga as a center defensive midfield player. Like the adjustment from that league to Premier League is so heavy,
massive.
But while we have you, because I think that's the betting odds. I think we've covered the top 4. The remaining teams are like Tottenham, Leicester, and Arsenal, who are all at like a measly 2%. So I don't know if any of us are going to really defend any of their chances to win the league. So I think maybe the more interesting conversation is how you guys at Aston Villa have improved, because of everybody I talked to like 2 years ago when Norwich was in the Premier League. JP California and I were probably the only 2 that actually appreciated how good Buendia actually was. And now you've got him at Aston Villa. And I think he's going to be like everybody's favorite non-first name Jack player at Aston Villa for a couple of years, because he's so good. I'm so jealous of his addition.
I'm super hyped on him. I think he's amazing. I had a Norwich kid, because I'm a coach, who was like, no, he's not going to you guys. You go to Arsenal. Arsenal's a bigger club. He came to us, right? Arsenal supposedly weren't 100% in on him. I call bullshit. I think they were. I think he was one of their top targets, and we snaked him. They kept Emile Smith-Rowe, which is great for them, but he's young and he's had some injury problems. I think Arsenal are honestly going to struggle. I think they're going to struggle to get top 8. I think they're going to struggle to get top 10, even with Ben White. I feel like the Arsenal Bowl is going to come out. They're going to get some injuries, and they're going to really hurt. Buendia just played his first match for Villa. He got 2 assists, Both of them were absolutely sublime passes through the middle. What Mason Mount did for Chelsea in the Champions League final, like those type of passes. He was amazing, and he wasn't even trying. I'm really stoked. It only works.
Incredible.
It only works if we keep the team. If we lose Jack, that doubles up on Buendia. He's done.
But you're not losing Jack, though, because Jack would go for like 100.
I don't think he's going to go. I don't think he is.
I don't think Jack's going anywhere. I think if anything, because I mean, Luke keeps telling us, and you tell me, JP. Apparently, Villa have money. Like, keep building this squad and grow the team.
Totally 100% believe, which is funny because you guys all told me, like, you guys talked about this multiple times on the pod, that you can't keep Villa, you can't keep Jack from a better team. You're going to hold him back and all this stuff. And I think he could stay. If he stays, that's amazing.
Like the Harry Kane conversation, really.
It really is.
Let's talk about that for a second, because I do think Aston Villa holds him back. I just think there's a ceiling to how far you guys can go. But you've improved the team. You've improved the team significantly this offseason so far. And let's say Leon Bailey, who's also attached to you guys this summer, lands. Fucking phenomenal, like mouth-watering rotation of four
Arsenal,
players.
I think we jump Everton. I think we potentially are pushing Tottenham.
I think we jump top four, JP.
To seventh place.
We jump top four. Yeah,
Six or seven?
I actually don't think we're top four yet.
No, not yet.
We're not going to
close.
We're not going to be for 2-3 years. So if we're not there in the next 2 years, Jack goes. Jack isn't going now 100%. There's no chance he goes. I think his contract's too big. I think he wants to. I think Harry Kane has done a lot more at Tottenham in regards to time spent, and we're still saying that it looks like he might not go. Jack is still a Villa fan. He's staying. But next year, if we finish, I don't know, 9th or 10th, and City come calling again,
I would agree.
100% he goes. 100%.
And honestly,
one season,
Villa could lower their price to sell him to them for 75 in a season, because he deserves to go. Villa should not hold him back at that number. We're not going to pull a Tottenham and say our guy needs to be worth 150 million with 1 year left or whatever. And
it's 3 years left.
Whatever.
Know your shit, JP. Don't talk shit when you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
The one good thing is
on the podcast.
Villa's owners are the same owner as the Milwaukee Bucks.
Ooh.
I don't know. Did Luca already bring that up?
No.
I didn't.
So the Villa owner, one of the two Villa owners, is the same owner as the Milwaukee Bucks.
What does that have to do with fucking anything?
Because Giannis' contract was coming up about 2 years ago, and they paid him. They paid him heavily.
Max deal.
Even before they'd even got to a final, because they were on the up. He could literally just say, Jack, we're going to do the same thing.
Are you comparing the structure of finances in football to the finances of
no, we're comparing keeping a player in Milwaukee.
I know, but it's
keeping him in Birmingham. It's a form of
completely fucking different.
But he stayed. I'm in Birmingham. It's a fucking shithole.
I love Villa.
Why is it stuck in my eyeball?
He loves playing for Villa. He's a Villa fan. I just think it's kind of like Kane in a sense where no one has that money. Like Jack would go for 100, maybe 120. Yeah, can we all agree on that?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who's paying that for him?
Nobody.
It's the same thing as Kane. No one's paying the money, and then why not build around him? So here's my question for both of you: what do Villa need most? Like, what position are you guys screaming out for?
Luke, you want to go first? I already know.
I think we need another centre back. I'm not entirely set on Mings. I'm not. I think Cons is actually a much better ball player. Mings with another centre back is a good player, but I think we need another striker. I've said at the start of this, I would love Villa to go 30-35 million and test Southampton for Ings. I know he's he's had a couple injuries, but I said that about Callum Wilson, and I never heard the end of that one. So
would you guys be interested in taking a Dele Alli to
if we don't get,
because I'd love that. By
if
the
we
way,
don't get Leon Bailey,
like for you guys,
I would actually like him.
No, for you guys,
would take him. I don't think our coach would take him. I don't think our coach would take him because I don't think he'd practice to the level our coach wants.
A proper number 10 beside
Is he a proper number 10?
he absolutely plays
He
that.
was.
And needs to be in that position again.
But that's not what we need.
With an Ollie Watkins beside him and a Grealish on the left. I mean, it's very similar to what Spurs had when he was at his best.
We need that Brighton holding defensive mid.
Oh, Basuma.
If we had Basuma and we get Leon Bailey, I'm going to say we push for top 4.
That would be a hell of a summer for you guys.
I love Bizuma. I love
everyone loves him.
Actually, that's a great shout, JP. That's I never even thought about
drop
that.
40 on Basuma. You don't pick up another striker, which would be super deadly. But I honestly believe our guy can do it. Watkins is doing really well. And I think you get Leon Bailey. You have Buendia in the 10 role. You have Leon on the right. You got Jack on the left. You got John McGinn in the 8. And you got Basuma in the 6. And
that's a good team.
We're potentially looking really very top heavy, but we had one of the best defenses last year for the first 6. We were like the 3rd best defense in the first half of the season.
Would either of you take Tuanzebe back on loan?
No.
Why not?
He's going to say yes. I'm going to say no. Tuanzebe, hold on. Tuanzebe has done shit.
You remember when you guys were bored about the Man United conversation?
I really wanted him at first. I thought at the beginning of summer, I said, yeah, let's take him. He won't leave and be 4th place at United to become 4th place at Villa. And he's done nothing. At least Tammy Abraham, who left us, he's actually gone on and done a good season at Chelsea. Tuanzebe's played 20 games in 2 years.
He's injury prone.
He's injury prone. I think we can do better. Go find a young kid that's better.
I think he's a great ball player.
I think he's good. But I just don't think he's what we want.
I like him. I like him a lot as an individual. I like how he sets up, and I think he's getting highly frustrated. Him and Bailey have both come out and said both said like they're frustrated with their lack of opportunity.
Yeah.
I don't know with Tuanzebe. I would love to see brought in, played in a rotation role, and see what he can do, because he was fantastic with JP in the Championship. We just don't know whether he's got it in him. But like United still keep him, you still extend his contract. Like there's a baller there. There is a real baller, and he's a good playing centre back, and he's quick. He's very quick. So
I got to interrupt you here for a second. We've got a Matt Cayley in the
yes.
Is this another Villa supporter?
Here he is, so pissed at us.
It's a person.
To be fair, he's a good English guy.
This is like in high school, and you had some friends over, and then they started all inviting like their friends from other schools.
Here's the link. Everybody show up. What's up, Matt? How you doing? Welcome to the
Luke.
Channel. Can you hear us, Matt? Okay.
Afternoon, gents. I don't know if you can hear me. I'm a bit bad signal at the moment.
Yeah, we can hear you all right. Who do you support, mate? Yeah, so that's failed miserably. Matt, it's been a pleasure. Come back on when you have a better connection and you're not on your car.
We just watched Matt careen and like, well, that was the YouTube for North End. We're going to go back to
I legitimately wonder what this is going to sound like as podcast content.
It's not going to sound great, but that's the nature of the situation. So
but you guys have been going on for an hour and 10 minutes, so I mean, you know what? Let loose a little bit.
We've done some much worse.
Conny, dick out.
Can I say though?
Sure, JP, you can.
I've been very unimpressed with Everton.
Until I cut you off. What?
Yeah.
Oh, let's talk about this. Hot take. We got a hot take.
Yeah, look, Brian. Sorry, I bring good info. Everton's summer has looked like trash to me. They brought in players. I've not been impressed.
Harry Winks is the new.
They got Rafa Benitez, and I think he's literally like, I'm going to take the Newcastle model and I'm going to bring it over here, and we're going to keep doing all this stuff, right? That he was planning to possibly do at Newcastle, yet he's at a club that seems way well off, and I'm just not impressed.
I've done a lot.
Let's talk about what they're doing. They're investing in the wings. So he's obviously walked into the Everton setup and said, you guys need wingers, which I don't necessarily think is wrong. And he's investing in kind of a weird mix of young Premier League-ish proven players and then old guard, definitely been around the block Premier League players. But I think that squad is already fairly rich. Like, I don't mind what he's doing. I think he's giving himself options on the wing. I think for other reasons, they're going to find themselves short in other areas. But it's a tough market for Everton because he's coming in not necessarily with the same war chest that the previous manager had last summer when they did invest pretty heavily across the board. So it's like a patchwork quilt right now of a team, and I don't think it's necessarily his fault. It's kind of just what you get when you get 2 summers of big spending led by 2 different managers.
Can we be careful using the words Young and Everton in the same sentence?
Yeah, I was gonna
just,
say, I don't even know if we should be talking about that.
Guys,
to be
can
honest.
we get to
wouldn't.
this? Like, who is the best of the rest at the moment? If we're gonna take like Leicester.
I mean, it's Leicester.
It's Leicester.
Leicester.
I think Leicester.
Tottenham then.
I think Leicester have actually had
Leicester.
one of the best summers.
They've done well.
Everybody,
I think
everybody's
Leicester's
done
done well.
That was
Women's
easy.
league.
That didn't take very long. So Leicester.
I think Arsenal's making moves that they should make, and it's not going to pan out anyways because their club is just like it feels like there's a black cloud over Arsenal. Like it really does feel like ever since they did the money grab and we're the greedy six, Arsenal's literally like they can't do a single thing right unless they won the Premier League for their fans.
They're about seven signings away.
Oh, they're
half
so
decent.
far. Oh, and a coach.
Yeah, Ben White I think is a good signing, but
he's not even signed yet though.
Like Bellerin, like the back four is a mess. Like I don't even know who's your midfield. Like what's good about your Xhaka's going to Roma. Xhaka's not even a good player. Not sure what Aubameyang's going to bring moving forward. Pepe's
Can I
better.
just pop you out on this because
Sure.
I know you're not going to actually have any stats to back this, but they signed a guy named Lukonga, which I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. I had never heard of him. I don't think anybody here had ever heard of him. He plays out of the Belgian league. He's Belgian. And Statman Dave, friend of the show, posted this guy's numbers.
Statman Dave, by the way, if you're watching.
Yeah, we
And
love
they
Statman.
are fucking crazy. So
It's the Belgian league, man.
but listen to these stats. And always take it with so you can't have impressive stats even if it's in Belgium. Like what's the face you're
We
making?
just talked about the gap when you come from any other league to the Premier League. Now you're talking about the Belgian league.
It would be great if you just shut your
Shut
mouth.
the fuck up. How about that?
No.
60,
No, he's
62
right.
attempt-
The Belgian is terrible.
Yeah.
62 attempted passes, 55 successful, 6 ball recoveries, 5.5 interceptions, 3.5 tackles,
2 French
And-
hens, 1 total, and a
and
Patry and a Petri.
3 attempted dribbles.
And a partridge in a pear
But-
tree.
Okay, well, if we're gonna be dicks, we're gonna be dicks. But
Who does he play for?
Oh,
And-
He plays for some
Anderlecht.
Belgian team. But if you look at the players that come out of Belgium, some of whom have become very good players, none of them have anything close to these kind of stats. This is like ridiculous. Like he was playing at 3 degrees higher than the Belgian league. And if he can do anything, if there's anything to this player whatsoever, they've got himself something fucking keeping an eye on.
Well, in your
He'll,
defense,
he'll
they-
probably crash and burn, but
They need to sign some good players. Like Odegaard, I think, is back with Real Madrid, and I think Arsenal want him, but I don't think Madrid are giving him back. But like, I don't know. Like, I just don't think they're a good. Like, I would take Leicester and Spurs ahead of Arsenal easily this upcoming season. Easily.
I
without
agree.
question.
I put Leeds above them.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. Like, they could finish 9th or 10th.
The thing for me is this guy that they bought, yes, his stats are very impressive. Yes, he's from the Belgian league. Yes, he is also 21. But if you're looking for Arsenal wanting to make steps forward, you need Belgium starters for the national team. You need national team starters.
And they
You need
weren't
guys-
very good at JP. Let's be honest.
Right. And he wasn't even on the first 2 in their center mids. He's not even looking. Did he even play in the Euros? Like,
Wow,
let's
hang
be
on.
real with where this kid's coming
I'm gonna
from.
put that-
no transfer window is defined by one youngster. I like this move because I think it's
100%.
promising for the future, but they've got to do other
2
stuff.
years?
Obviously, this is not
Arteta-
it. But like getting a young guy
Arteta
now at
gets
this
sacked by
age,
Christmas. Arteta gets
this
sacked by Christmas.
is what all these top clubs that want to remain top clubs have to do. They have to find the guy that could turn into, like Camavinga could turn into. You're not get somebody now. So I like that they did this because it's high risk, low risk, high reward potentially. And I like that they're kind of taking that build for the future model because I think Arteta needs to do that with Arsenal. They're not going to fix Arsenal in the next 2 seasons, but they can
Talk
start
about build for the future, mate.
long
Aston
hauling.
Villa.
Saka's a young player. He's very good. Smith Rowe, like JP said, he does get injured, but he's an excellent player. They just gave him the number 10, I think, today.
They did, yeah.
So they've got some good young players, but they just, for me, I mean, the defense is a shambles. They don't have a good goal. For me, they're still so far away from it.
Well-
Is Arteta the guy, and how much money are Arsenal willing to invest? in
To
this
ask
squad?
that question, how do we feel about Ben White then? We're talking about investment. Like Ben White's a very promising.
I think he's a
center
great.
back.
If that does happen, that's probably the best transfer they will have.
Great signing.
100%.
By
If it
far.
works out.
If it works out, because
If he doesn't
he's
get
a
injured.
massive leader. He was a massive leader for
But
England.
is he
even though
enough
didn't play.
to change their
No,
fate, you know?
I'm not. Maybe not enough to change. You need other things around him, but it's a
Who
really
does he
good
start
starting
with?
point. It's a
I'm
really
just
good
trying to I can't remember who.
Brighton's other
who
center back. I can't quite remember, but he was.
No, is it the Brazilian guy, the young Brazilian lad? Who's Arsenal's main
Arsenal?
center
I
back?
don't even know.
Gabriel.
Gabriel.
Oh, but that's him. There we go.
Who started well?
But it's I think they actually have a back three. I think they were playing a lot of back three.
Yeah.
I think it was Gabriel, Chambers, and then it would be I think Tierney played like a wing back, but maybe
he did a wing back, yeah.
But I think this Ben White gives them like a back three that every single one of them can pass the ball well.
Yeah.
Which gives everybody else freedom to kind of like bounce up the pitch. And I think that's what Arteta wants to like line up with. But it's, it's just such a weird experimental time for Arsenal because nobody really knows what they are. Even their record last year, if you looked at their
They were really
results,
good post January, really
post January, you look at the results then when Arteta maybe had the time to like influence the team and figure it out.
Yep.
Things locked in.
They were one of the better teams in the league for the last.
And that's with your key goal scoring recovering from malaria for a big chunk of the season. So nobody really knows, I don't think, what Arsenal are and are not yet.
You know who else we forget about too? If he stays healthy and has a good season, Thomas Partey, an incredible player. If he's healthy and they can get him working out in that system, he's a good player.
Like he took some time to adjust.
Yeah,
he was in and out of the squad a little bit with injuries, but once he like bedded in, I think his bedding in was overlapped with their results turning around as well. Yeah. So it's tricky because do any of these teams have a better chance at winning the title, which is what we're talking about? No. Do any of them kind of play in that mix of the top
JP
four?
and Luke are having a conversation with themselves, so just take them out of the conversation here. It's a bit boring watching you guys look at your phones.
Power move.
I was looking up stats.
We've done that twice.
You.
Like, what are we?
Yeah, I got a comparison I want to make for Arsenal. Hold on.
JP's got a good one coming.
Damn. Hey, so here's the thing. They paid $50 million for him, and that's a lot of money. Inflated because of the Englishness. I don't know why. Apparently, English people like other English people.
Well, they're willing. Like that's reported. They haven't bought him yet. It's not done.
I mean, and let's be 100%. Every agent, every club always says the numbers put in the press are not true. So I'm going to say it's probably closer to the 40 mil, probably plus a few add-ons, whatever. Leicester on the opposite end, they bought a forward for 30 mil who scored 27 goals in 28 games.
Yeah.
Leicester's fucking recruitment is the best.
It's unreal.
It's the best in the league. It's the best.
But
in Europe.
cut me off
watch out for
you think I'm talking.
Hey, you know what, JP? Stop looking at your phone and fucking.
Are you talking about? Are you talking about Daka?
Daka, yeah, Daka,
You know
however you say his name.
I'll just cut off Luke because I know he's trying to talk to some chick on he's swiping left or right.
I think it's if we're gonna talk about Leicester, like I think talking about the Daka signing is huge because there's your Jamie Vardy replacement. Right? There's your exit plan for Jamie Vardy. This kid can he? So I personally worry that this is too much of a jump. I know everybody compares his numbers to Haaland's.
Sorry, Paul. What league does he play in?
Salzburg.
Salzburg
out
in
Austria.
Germany.
Out of Austria.
Okay, sorry.
So he played for the same Austrian Red Bull team that Haaland played for. Right. And his goal scoring record was pretty comparable. Gotcha. Haaland, however, had goals scored in the Champions League like there was no tomorrow. Like he was phenomenal in both the league and Champions League. Yep. So Daka just did it locally in Austria, but his numbers were comparable to Haaland. So the easy math was, he's going to be as good as Haaland one day. He, unlike Haaland, is skipping the next step and going straight to a harder league. He's going to Leicester, which is probably still a stepping stone club for him in his future if he can land. But I think he's going to have a really hard time assimilating to England and then fitting into Brendan Rodgers' squad because nobody's just going to give them their spot in the starting 11. He's going to have to perform. There's at least two guys ahead of him right now that I know of that are at the end of last season. Iniacho.
Iniacho. He was on fire at the end of the season.
He was on
fire.
But
he didn't start the season. They bought him. They sat him for 5 months. And he didn't play because Brendan Rodgers bedded him in. He's going to do the same thing with this guy. He's going to give him a season. Watch out next season. I bet this guy gets 15 goals, no problem, coming off the bench, doing his time. I don't think Jamie Vardy's going anywhere right now. I think he actually still has probably 2 more seasons in him. But Jamie Vardy, Iheanacho, and this guy who's just going to get a little bit of minutes
I
here
think
and there.
Vardy's done, mate. I think Vardy's done.
Oh, I don't think so,
No,
man.
not yet.
It
Not
doesn't-
yet.
it doesn't
Still
age,
another
right?
season or two in him. I
Doesn't
think.
age,
What
man.
were his statistics in the last 3 months of last season?
He went
Yeah,
up.
because he
went a
played
little
every
flat.
game,
Yeah.
right?
What does that
Now
have
he
to
can
do with it? That's
I
literally my
would
point.
look it up, Brian, but
No,
you're not
wait,
going to let me
wait,
look at my phone.
Wait.
Right.
That's my point. He played every game. He played every game and scored no goals.
No,
He
Zero
won't
goals.
play
He did
every
very
game.
well. He
but
started off
he
very well.
hustles, dude.
He scored 0 goals in like the last 15 games of the season.
Because
That's-
Nacho was putting them all in the net. And who's the
No,
other?
but so that's my point. So
Who's your other
somebody else is
attacker
scoring,
that
So
they
what? You're
had?
gonna like? You're
But
gonna.
Vardy
had
was doing
a-
a lot more off the ball.
had a
than
real
Vardy-
good
Vardy-
close
Oh,
pass.
fuck off!
But then he got
off.
injured. He
Not
got a
what he
really
does.
bad injury. Who am I thinking of right now?
It's
Near
not
the-
what he does.
Near the end of the
Come on.
season, he was on fire, and then he got injured, like a really bad knee
Tielemans?
injury.
No.
Oh, the
No.
winger.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
like a winger. Harvey Barnes.
Oh, Barnes.
Harvey Barnes.
He'll be back too.
He was
See,
solid before his injury.
but Leicester
Harvey
is doing
Barnes.
Nothing to
everything
do
that
with
Arsenal
fucking-
should be doing.
Agreed.
Arsenal's buying players that Leicester want to buy, but Arsenal's putting them right into the starting lineup in a toxic atmosphere, and they're going to struggle, and it's going to take them a long time. Leicester on the opposite end of the spectrum, they're buying players for cheaper. They're betting their time. They're working them in. They're finding good systems, the right games to play them. They're getting them the minutes slowly, and they're building them into the program, except Arsenal's just throwing them in the deep end and letting players sink.
See, what I love about that is that
California,
Arsenal are.
Welcome to my TED talk.
I love that it's because Arsenal are rumored to be buying Madison from Leicester. So
It's
I
not
love.
happening.
I don't get
But like
that.
even if it does happen, that's actually pretty good money
I'd be
for
impressed.
Leicester. Like they bought him from a championship team,
What they did
and
with
then they're going to sell him
Maguire,
for
what they
millions.
did with
And it's
fucking
they're not even
Maguire,
they're not even that required. Like they don't rely on Madison anymore. They don't need him that much. Like he was injured a lot of last season, and then he didn't play particularly
They're
well.
managed.
So
They're managed.
punt him on Arsenal. Fine, make 50 million easy.
They're
Yeah.
managed so well when it comes to the recruitment that they don't need to rely on those biggest players to make them functional. They just transition.
It's
Sell them for a
almost
bunch of
Moneyball.
money, and they move into the next player. Like they sold Conte, who is like arguably the best defensive midfielder on the planet, and has been. He left and won the league with fucking Chelsea. He's gone. That's what he
Twice.
does.
Yeah.
He did
And
that,
then
and
Mahrez,
they
too.
replaced him.
Yep.
And then they still fucking finished where they finished. So their recruitment is by far probably the best. Maybe other than sort of your cities of the world,
Brentford.
What about
Yeah.
Tielemans?
Yeah.
Tielemans-
Wow, hang on. It's worth noting they were well below. They were like in the lower league for a while. Like they haven't consistently been in the top 6. Once they sold Conte,
They're talking about in the last
they-
couple of years. Like,
they had a drip, and then they slowly built themselves back up. So like I think with this model that they're kind of perfecting, you have to be willing to go up the standings and down the standings over the span of
you
like
accept
10
it.
years.
You accept it.
Yeah, it's just part of it.
They lost 3 of their best players from that title-winning team. They lost Conte, Mahrez, and Harry Maguire. And I think Bry's right. They've done an excellent job to recruit.
Danny
Wait.
Incredible.
Danny Drinkwater? You're going to leave Danny Drinkwater out?
How could you forget him?
Went to
He was
Chelsea, never
Titanic.
played
He
a
was-
fucking
he was
game.
Trying to fight a 17-year-old. Danny Drinkwater.
Disgusting.
Lads, okay, we're an hour and 20 minutes in here. We could talk all night. We know this already, but we do have to sort of wrap it up. We haven't talked about Spurs at all, and I'm just going to do this just because I'm a Spurs fan. And I'm just going to ask everybody a single question: do you think Spurs, based on what we've seen so far in the transfer market, have done anything remotely close to thinking that they have a chance of finishing in the top 6, perhaps?
No,
I'm just saying
hold on,
top 6.
hold
So
on.
that's one place above where they are now, which is the Conference League.
I want to jump on that. So
Connie, you go
Yeah.
first. But like I'm curious because there's a bunch of things that are happening, but nothing confirmed. But I would love to get you guys' opinion on it.
I think,
And then we're gonna wrap it up because it's been a while.
I think Nuno's been. I think it's a good move for Spurs. I think he's a good manager, and this will be an opportunity for him to take a bigger club to see what he can do with it, to really test his chops. If they do get Romero as a center back signing, I think that will be massive. Can you keep Harry Kane happy? I don't know what's going to happen there. I think he's going to ask to leave, but they're not selling him, so he'll be there for the season. Could they finish 6th? Possibly, but they would have to add more, and everything would have to go right.
Who's your centre back pairing? Like I'm looking at an
Alderweireld?
article in front of me,
Toby?
and you've got no, he's too old, and I'm looking at like if they sign the players that they might sign, and this predicted top 11 has got Romero and Rodon. I don't think Rodon's good enough.
It'd be Romero and Alderweireld.
It would be Alderweireld.
You think Alderweireld is going to play as much as like
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, he's
Starter.
he's 31 years old, 32 years old. Why wouldn't he?
Starts for Belgium.
Center halves play like until they're like in their
Yeah.
late 30s. So like, I don't think that's an issue. He's got a contract, two more seasons left,
He's not very injury prone.
and that as well. But you put him next to Romero, you've got a pretty solid center.
I would agree.
Pairing, of course,
All right.
without injury. But anyway, go on.
I-
I want to get
I'm gonna-
everybody's opinion.
I'll answer the question then.
Hey, somebody should answer the question.
No, I do not think, with what I've seen of the window so far for Tottenham, which I think has been very quiet, that you guys have done enough to secure a top 6 finish.
JP?
I would definitely second that, but there's a lot of moving pieces for Tottenham to me. To me, it's they could either fall off the cliff or they could actually take a step forward. If they're getting this attacking center mid from Spain, what was his name? Gil.
Brian
Hill.
He's like
No,
a winger, though.
Brian Hill.
I just need to curb that for a second. Brian Gill is not going to be the thing that's going to change anything. He's 20 years old.
No.
Who was
I'm not
the
saying
guy
that.
Wolves signed. Who was the
He's
young lad? that
20
Wolves
years
signed?
old. He's not going to be anything
Trincao.
remotely close to the first
No.
team.
The
next
guy up
season.
front, Paul.
I totally agree he's not, but that's the signings they need to make.
It's a great signing. It's a great signing.
He's a great signing.
Yeah.
He'll get minutes. He won't change the team.
He'll play in
But
play
that
in, like,
to me
cup
gives me hope that they are looking for the right people. They have the right people in charge to make the right decisions, and therefore the club will come out of it okay. If they sell Kane, I think they're in trouble. I think if they go
Do
in,
you think they're going to sell Kane, JP?
I
Realistically?
I personally do believe they will, because I think
This summer?
I do. I think Man City will go in for them, because I think Man City need a striker, and I think Harry Kane is the top of their list. And I think they are seeing everybody else do very well. And they're going to say, you know what? We need one player, and that's Harry Kane to win him the title again. And if you do sell Harry Kane, that's what, 15 points a season gone?
Okay. So, okay. I mean, you're welcome to your opinion. Luke, I would love to hear your thoughts.
I think fuck Tottenham, mate. That's my honestly, Brian, I
Anyway, guys,
Luke is
Luke has had enough of that.
here, buddy.
you're a sad little man, Brian Ireland.
Oh, I'm the
Sad man.
sad little man. You're the one who
Hey,
hates
hey,
Tottenham.
let's
Yeah,
wrap it
up.
and I'm the sad little man.
Let's
Yeah.
wrap it up
Take
on
me out
this
the
very mature
All right, so,
podcast.
fuck
You
that
guys
guy.
are getting so angry these days. The sexual tension is just unreal
Okay, shut
between
up.
you guys.
So I think you're in trouble, Brian, if you're trying to challenge for top 6 with what you have right now. If you sign 1 or 2 more players, Kane's not going anywhere. Totally agree with you. I don't think I think the money's too much. I think you're not top 6 right now, and I don't really know what you need to do it. I don't know if the players you've even been linked with, as you said, Brian Gill, he's not going to be the change. I don't think defensively you're that great.
But Romero, do you know anything about Romero?
I do. I know he's a cracking player.
It's
So
looking like
maybe,
that's likely
That would
that's
be a
going to
great
happen.
signing. Yeah, that would be huge for you guys. But
He's
you
like
would need-
top 5 in the world at the moment.
He's
or at
good.
least statistically.
But you would need more than that,
Yeah.
though, Brian. You
Oh,
would
I
need a
agree.
couple
No,
more
I
signings.
agree. We need
Yeah.
one more in that position, plus in a couple other positions. I'm
nobody's
not.
talking about Son. I noticed that. I'm surprised it's been so
staple.
quiet about Son.
He's a staple. He's always good. Everyone likes him.
But no.
It's
Sign,
But I'm-
sign that
I'm
contract,
not
son.
going
Sign that contract.
It's been the
I'm not
longest.
leaving.
It's been the longest contract that's never
But
happened.
that's what I mean. Why we're not talking about it? Like,
Is
it's
it not
delayed.
extended?
What is this? 7 months? 6 months? 7 months?
No, it's about a year and a half.
mad.
So when is his
Yeah.
contract up?
It's absurd. He's got another year and change, I think, or something like that. I forget the exact numbers on it. It's
much?
it's a scenario where like he should have signed it if he wanted to a long time ago. The fact that he
That's it.
hasn't, most of us as fans are going like, "What the fuck, dude?" Like, there's clearly he's making a decision based on the things he wants to do that aren't remotely close to what we want him to do. You know what I mean? So yeah, yeah. Oh, so my thoughts, if you don't mind, on Spurs, because we're gonna do this quickly. If
you had a podcast where you talk.
I know, right?
And
and I get to manage it. If we get if Spurs get this Romero fella in, who's like arguably one of the best center halves currently at 23, and replace somebody on the right hand side of our right back position. So no no Aurier, no Matt Doherty, but somebody who can play in that sort of fluid position. And get rid of Winks, get rid of Dele Alli, get rid of fucking I don't know. There's a bunch of them.
Wings to
We want a
Villa.
full rebuild, man.
Leaving. What's
Sissoko.
Sissoko gone. Like, there's a bunch of players that need to go to just really get the squad to.
Oh, I think
Romero.
you're looking for
Fresh
Eric
again.
Dyer. Eric Dyer's
Eric
probably
Dyer,
the
100%. Get the fuck out. I love you, Eric,
Yeah,
but you're
he's
done.
useless.
There's a bunch of them that have to go, and that is what it comes down to. So Paratici, who has come in as the football director, is now doing something, and if you pay attention at all, and I'm sure you don't, to what he's doing from a director of football position, is like everything is moving very quickly. So this thing about Romero, this thing with we've got a keeper coming in who's supposed to sort of follow up with
A Villa reject, Galini.
no, it's not Collini at all.
No, Galini.
Yeah, is that his name? Collini?
Yeah,
I think
Galini.
Is
Golini, Gollini.
Oh, Galini. Yes, you're correct. Absolutely.
He's a backup keeper, right?
Yes, he
Yeah.
would be. He would be.
Okay,
He'd be
so-
back.
okay.
I'm just saying, there's a bunch of things going on. Most of it, I'm not confident about. I'm pretty fucking terrified about what's going to happen next season. But if the things that
I'm
happen,
glad we got that in.
but if the things that are happening that seemingly look like they're going to happen, I don't think it's crazy to think Spurs will finish.
Hey, you should get that on a shirt, and that describes Tottenham in the last 5 years. If things seemingly are happening the way that they should happen, Tottenham Hotspur FC.
Could you not
That's
apply that?
literally-
Could you not apply that to Aston Villa?
No.
I mean, I'd say the last few
Pretty
years
sure
have
you
been
could.
pretty positive, but
I love it.
I feel like Tottenham
What
is in a
total
starting
denial?
spot that's way better than Arsenal,
denial?
and they have a lot of the same issues that Arsenal have.
Yeah, I
They've
would agree.
got a
with
lot
that.
of deadwood. They need to bring in some
Yeah,
players.
deadwood.
Who knows?
They
Like,
need a rebuild. They need a
We should
rebuild
have rebuilt like before
2 years ago.
Pochettino got sacked. Like
2 years ago.
should have just rebuilt under Pochettino. That would have been the right thing to do. Anyway,
On that
thank you for
note-
listening. Thank you for
on that
listening to my
note-
situation. I look forward to seeing where we are in the next couple of weeks because I do think if things go the way they look, Spurs are going to be better off. And of course, I'm going to be positive because that's all I got. So thanks for listening.
All right,
Thank you
great.
for listening to the North End podcast. It's now time. No, okay.
Jesus.
Well, let's put a pin in this and wrap it up.
Right.
Luke,
Right, boys.
Luke, do you want to give us a little sample, little tidbit of the video you're working on for YouTube?
Yeah, so
Oh, is he
I'd already
doing
recorded it.
something or?
Yeah, I'm doing a 5 reasons why Grealish will not be leaving. It is a must listen to. I'm going to get it under 10 minutes. I had it before, then it was a big watermark. Fuck you, companies that don't tell you about watermarks. So I'm redoing that, but it's a pretty steadfast thing. And if anyone says I'm wrong, then obviously they're clearly idiots. So there
Just
you
so you
go.
know, folks, we're new to YouTube. Some of us, Luke,
What
don't know
is it?
what they're doing, trying to figure things out. JP, thank you for coming on, mate. Even though you were not invited, appreciate you coming on.
You were awesome, dude.
Brian's
Yell at me for not
exclusive
having a
club.
shirt. Yell at me for looking at my phone. I brought up
did.
good
Hey,
points.
you know what?
Come on.
No, you did well, Luke. On
Thank
the
you.
other hand, it's another conversation.
Well,
Maybe
But
maybe,
I've never
maybe
had-
wear
I've
sleeves
never
next time.
We'll chat with
It's
him post pod about
baking.
it.
It's 100 degrees here. I'm melting.
But I want to
California.
thank everybody who ends up watching this. We had our first comments, which was nice. We're new to YouTube.
Yeah.
This is a new thing for us. We are going to get better at it. We want you to
We're going to up the nudity.
like
We're
and
gonna up the nudity
subscribe.
for sure.
There'll be dick
Conny,
talk
good luck.
after 10 minutes. After 10 minutes only, because it's the only time to do it. But thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Cheers, guys.
I gotta run, boys.
Bye.
This is the North End.